There's a moment in every connection where something changes, not because of a fight, not because of closure, but because you stop chasing, you stop caring, you go quiet. And in that silence, something powerful happens. The dynamic flips. They may not say it, but they feel it deeply. People can sense when they've lost the power they once held over you. And the moment you stop feeding their ego, you trigger something far more unsettling than your attention ever did: their self-doubt. They don't know what happened, but they feel it. The energy shifted. You're no longer available in the way they depended on, emotionally, mentally, energetically. And this change creates a ripple effect. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how they respond to this shift, what they think, how they feel, why they act the way they do. You'll see that the second you stop chasing, they start unraveling. Not always with words, but with actions, with games, with silence that suddenly becomes very loud. If you've ever wondered what really happens when they realize they're no longer the center of your world, keep watching. This isn't about revenge. This is about power, your power being reclaimed. Let's get into it. The first thing that happens when you lose interest isn't a reaction you see. It's one they feel, internally, silently, and it hits them like a glitch in their control system. You see, most people who are used to attention, even inconsistent, anxious, or conflicted attention, build a false sense of security around it. Whether they were playing games or just emotionally immature, they fed off your reactions, your validation, your curiosity. So when you suddenly stop giving any of it, not because you're angry, not because you announced it, but simply because you stopped caring, their ego registers it as a loss. But here's the key. They don't process it as you lost interest right away. Instead, it feels like confusion, like something's wrong, like they're missing something they didn't even realize they relied on. It's subtle, but it's loud in their nervous system. That silence you give them, it creates noise in them. They start wondering, why didn't you chase this time? Why does it feel different? Did you meet someone? Did they go too far? And that uncertainty, it cracks the surface of the fake power they thought they had. Because attention is fuel for their ego, and when the fuel dries up, so does their sense of control. That's why the first stage after you pull away isn't always anger or sadness, it's disruption. Their rhythm is off, their assumptions are shaken. You weren't supposed to stop caring, not yet, not before they were done. But now you've introduced a silence that doesn't seek answers, and that kind of silence can't be manipulated. It can only be felt. And the more they feel it, the more it eats at their pride. This is when the ego shock begins to snowball, and in the next section, we'll break down exactly how that snowball turns into fixation. Because once they notice your indifference, their need for your attention doesn't just fade, it grows. After the initial ego shock, something interesting happens. They don't just notice your absence, they start watching it closely, obsessively. This is the moment where the silence you created turns into their internal noise. They might not message you, they might not like your posts, but behind the screen, they're checking, they're thinking, they're wondering. See, losing interest quietly is one of the most psychologically disarming moves you can make, because it gives them nothing to react to. No drama, no confrontation, just the cold, calm removal of energy they used to feed on. And that absence, it's like a mirror they can't look away from. They start trying to figure it out. Was it something they said? Did they go too far? Are you seeing someone new? And suddenly, you become the mystery. That's the turning point. Because when someone used to think they had emotional control over you, the loss of that control doesn't make them feel free. It makes them feel powerless. The more they try to replay your last interactions, the more their mind loops. They remember how you used to check in, how you used to care. And now that it's gone, they start chasing it mentally, even if they don't chase you directly. That's the dangerous part for them. Because once you stop reacting, they start spiraling. They want closure, but they don't want to admit they lost you. They want your attention again, but they don't know how to get it without looking weak. So they stalk silently, post strategically, ask mutuals, scroll through old conversations. But none of it works because you're not giving them what they want, emotional proof that you still care. And as they fixate, they start to confuse that fixation with attraction. But it's not love they feel, it's control slipping. And that's the addiction they really had, the need to feel powerful through your attention. That need is now starving, and the hunger gets worse with every day you stay silent. Next, we'll break down how that obsession leads to either guilt or aggression, and why your emotional control decides which path they go down. Once your lack of interest fully registers, their nervous system splits into two paths, guilt or rage. If they had any genuine care for you, even buried under ego and avoidance, the guilt creeps in first. They start remembering the times you showed up for them, the moments you were patient, the loyalty you gave. And now that you're detached, they realize they were playing with something real. That realization burns. But instead of reaching out and apologizing, most people in this state go silent. Not because they don't feel it, but because pride blocks their throat. They'd rather suffer than admit they lost someone who actually gave a damn. So they suppress, they isolate, they try to distract themselves, but none of it sticks. Why? Because the feeling isn't just mental, it's physiological. The body remembers what safety felt like with you, and now it's registering abandonment. And that nervous system panic often morphs into blame. That's when the rage shows up. They start reframing the story to make you the villain. You switched up. You stopped caring. You never really loved me. This is all projection. It's emotional self-defense. Because if they admit they lost you through their own behavior, they have to confront the parts of themselves they've been running from. So instead, they create a story where you were the one who changed, the one who pulled away unfairly, the one who became cold. But deep down, they know the truth, and that's why their emotions become unstable. One day they feel sorry, the next they feel angry. One minute they miss you, the next they block you. That's not clarity, that's spiraling. And the worst part? They think they're hiding it, but their behavior becomes erratic. Passive-aggressive stories, flaky replies, sudden mood shifts. They'll try to bait you into reacting so they can get the emotional control back. But if you remain silent and grounded, the storm has nowhere to land. And eventually, that rage burns itself out, leaving them alone with the one thing they were running from the entire time: accountability. In Section 4, we'll break down what happens when accountability hits, how it humbles even the most prideful people, and what to do when it happens. Once your lack of interest fully registers, their nervous system splits into two paths: guilt or rage. If they had any genuine care for you, even buried under ego and avoidance, the guilt creeps in first. They start remembering the times you showed up for them, the moments you were patient, the loyalty you gave. And now that you're detached, they realize they were playing with something real. That realization burns. But instead of reaching out and apologizing, most people in this state go silent. Not because they don't feel it, but because pride blocks their throat. They'd rather suffer than admit they lost someone who actually gave a damn. So they suppress, they isolate, they try to distract themselves, but none of it sticks. Why? Because the feeling isn't just mental, it's physiological. The body remembers what safety felt like with you, and now it's registering abandonment. And that nervous system panic often morphs into blame. That's when the rage shows up. They start reframing the story to make you the villain. You switched up. You stopped caring. You never really loved me. This is all projection. It's emotional self-defense. Because if they admit they lost you through their own behavior, they have to confront the parts of themselves they've been running from. So instead, they create a story where you were the one who changed, the one who pulled away unfairly, the one who became cold. But deep down, they know the truth, and that's why their emotions become unstable. One day they feel sorry, the next they feel angry. One minute they miss you, the next they block you. That's not clarity, that's spiraling. And the worst part? They think they're hiding it. But their behavior becomes erratic. Passive-aggressive stories, flaky replies, sudden mood shifts. They'll try to bait you into reacting so they can get the emotional control back. But if you remain silent and grounded, the storm has nowhere to land. And eventually, that rage burns itself out, leaving them alone with the one thing they were running from the entire time: accountability. In Section 4, we'll break down what happens when accountability hits, how it humbles even the most prideful people, and what to do when it happens. After the rage fades and their manipulative strategies fail to draw a reaction from you, they're left alone in the silence they created. And this is where the mirror finally turns. This is when accountability starts creeping in, not because they choose to take responsibility, but because they've run out of distractions. When someone loses access to your energy and realizes you're not chasing, not defending yourself, not reacting, they have nothing left to fight. And in that stillness, the truth starts echoing louder than ever. They caused this. The calls they ignored, the chances they wasted, the patterns they refused to change. The blame games, the avoidance, the self-sabotage, all of it builds into a quiet but deafening realization. And that realization humbles even the most arrogant. But here's the key. Accountability without access feels like torment to someone who once felt emotionally superior. Because now they see you didn't leave in chaos, you left in clarity. That's a different kind of pain. They might scroll through old messages, check your page, wonder if they still cross your mind. They replay moments where you were kind despite their cruelty. And this contrast between who you were and how they treated you starts dismantling the ego that kept them feeling in control. But don't expect a full confession. Most people won't admit their mistakes out loud. They'll test the waters subtly. Maybe a random "hope you're good" message, a story view, a like from months back. These aren't accidents. They're silent admissions that they feel the loss. And this is the most critical moment. If you reward it too quickly, they'll regain emotional control and rewrite the story again. But if you hold your silence, let them feel that accountability fully, and only engage on your terms, they start understanding that they lost something they can't just reach for anymore. In Section 5, we'll dive into the power of emotional unavailability when used correctly, and how your silence becomes the punishment they never saw coming. When you lose interest and truly detach, it flips the entire emotional script, and the very attention they once weaponized becomes the void they now feel haunted by. You're no longer reacting, you're no longer chasing, and that emotional silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. For someone who once fed off your need for closeness, validation, or resolution, your indifference is louder than any argument. Suddenly, they're the ones replaying the last conversation. They're the ones left wondering if they mattered at all. And what really destroys them? It's not that you're angry, it's that you're unavailable. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That calm detachment, that cold silence, it makes them question everything. Did they ever really have control? Were you actually hurt, or were you just bored? Are you done for real, or are you just letting them squirm? This spiral is brutal because it forces them to see that your interest was a gift, not a given. And that gift is now gone. This is when they often start mimicking your behavior, posting cryptic stories, acting aloof, pretending they're unbothered. But it's all reactive. You're living rent-free in their head now, and it burns. Because for the first time, their mind is occupied by a question they can't answer. What if they really don't care anymore? That's the punishment. Not revenge, not drama, but detachment. Controlled, consistent detachment. It teaches them that their actions have consequences, and those consequences can't be reversed with charm or guilt or another empty apology. In Section 6, we'll explore the emotional time bomb they now sit with, and how your silence creates a delayed explosion that they won't see coming, but will definitely feel. The most powerful reactions don't happen in the moment. They build in silence and detonate later when least expected. When you lose interest and stop reacting, it doesn't always trigger an immediate breakdown in the other person. In fact, at first, they may appear unaffected. They may even double down on their facade, pretending not to notice or care. But what's really happening is emotional compression. Their ego registers your shift long before their pride lets them admit it. And the longer you stay quiet and detached, the more internal pressure they begin to feel. Each day that passes without your attention chips away at the illusion of control they once had. They remember how you used to fight to be heard, how you used to check in or try to fix things, and now you don't. That contrast creates cognitive dissonance. They start to spiral not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're no longer doing. This delay is crucial. It gives you the upper hand without needing to lift a finger. While they pretend everything is fine, their subconscious starts replaying your last interactions, searching for clues, trying to figure out when they lost your investment. And because they never expected you to walk away without warning, they now live in a loop of, what if? What if you're really done? What if you've already moved on? What if they pushed too far and now there's no coming back? That's the delayed explosion. It doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like quiet anxiety, impulsive decisions, petty reach-outs, and subtle bids for attention that come too late. And the beauty of it? You're calm, grounded, silent. By doing less, you've triggered more. They may not admit it, they may never say it out loud, but inside, they're losing control. And in Section 7, we'll look at the exact signs that their emotional stability is cracking and how to spot when your silence has officially taken over the room. When your silence starts to dominate the dynamic, it's not always loud, it's psychological. You'll notice subtle but undeniable signs that your lack of interest has created internal chaos in the other person. The first signal is passive reach-outs, random story posts they didn't used to make, quotes aimed at you, songs with specific lyrics, or updates designed to grab attention. They won't say your name, but everything is crafted to trigger a response. This is their ego testing the waters without exposing their pride. They want to see if you're still watching, still affected, still orbiting. If you don't react, the confusion sets in. Next comes the shift in tone. If they do speak to you, there's hesitation where there used to be confidence. The coldness fades into uncertainty. They may act casual, even indifferent, but the energy feels off. They talk slower, there's more space between their messages. They ask vague questions just to keep the door open. All of this reveals one thing. They've noticed the power has shifted and they don't know how to win it back. Then come the emotional contradictions. They might say one thing, "I'm good, I've moved on, it's better this way," while their behavior says the opposite. They keep checking your profile. They respond quicker than usual. They bring up old memories. This tension between what they say and what they do is the clearest sign that your silence has become louder than any words could be. They're no longer sure of themselves. They're doubting their choice. And for the first time, you are the one in control of how it ends. In Section 8, we'll close the loop by exploring how to maintain that control, how to respond or not respond when the shift is complete and they finally show the emotional cracks you've been waiting for. Once your silence starts echoing in their mind and they feel your absence more than they ever felt your presence, the tables turn. Eventually, they'll reach out, sometimes directly, sometimes through passive-aggressive or nostalgic tactics. This is where most people fumble. They get validation from the return and immediately open the gates, forgetting the pain that made silence necessary in the first place. But real power lies in restraint. When they finally come back, don't meet them with eagerness. Meet them with clarity. Be calm, composed, and emotionally neutral. If they offer breadcrumbs, don't beg for more. If they try to test the waters with vague messages, don't chase clarity. Let them sit in their confusion. The moment you give them certainty, you reset the dynamic back to their control. Instead, mirror their tone with boundaries. You're not cold, you're grounded. If they want real access again, they'll have to earn it. And if they don't, your silence continues to speak. The key is not to punish them, but to make it clear that your energy is earned, not owed. You don't chase, you don't argue, and you definitely don't over-explain. The same silence that made them miss you is the silence that now keeps them unsure of you. And in that uncertainty, they begin to realize what they lost. You've shifted from reactive to selective, from emotionally available to emotionally disciplined. And that shift is permanent, unless someone proves with action, not words, that they're worth reopening the door. So when they return, remember, the goal isn't to get them back, it's to stay in control of who you allow back in. That's what true strength looks like, and that's how you turn your silence into power. If you've made it this far, remember this. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the language of self-respect. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop needing to be understood, you become powerful. The people who ghosted you, pulled away, or treated you like an option will eventually feel the weight of your absence far louder than any words you could have said. Because in a world full of noise, the one who can stay quiet holds the most control. If this video gave you clarity, drop a comment and let me know what resonated with you most. Hit that like button, subscribe for more power-focused content like this, and remember, sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. Stay silent, stay grounded, stay unshakable. I'll see you in the next one.